Hey, welcome back to the Book of Dad Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson. As always, before we get started, we're going to say thank you to Jehovah. Thank Him for His Son, Jesus Christ. Thank Him for our families. Thank Him for work and our ability to do the things we're able to do. Iceberg Slim, engineer extraordinaire. What's up, dog?
What's up, brother? How you feel, man?
Hey, I'm feeling great. Hey, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to have some fun.
I'm ready, man.
Hey, we got a guy with us that's been with us before, and without any formal introduction, I'm just going to say, what's up, Rodney? Talk to us, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm good. First of all, I got that Iceberg Slim reference. I read all those books. I'm accomplished.
I hear that.
Yeah, Rodney Johnson is the best comedian I have ever seen. I actually saw him live before. He spent some time with us. He had us laughing and stuff, but we're going to try to get serious with him a little bit if he allows us. But Rodney, man, what you been up to? Talk to us, man. What's up?
Well, man, listen, I pastor this church and I've been volunteering a couple of days a week at the Boys and Girls Club in Austell. And I'm here to tell you that teachers are to get paid to teach PTSD and some other benefits, man. I think they need to have a vacation. I think they should have a 4-day work week, man, dealing with these youth of America. But besides that, man, I'm good.
Okay. So you're a pastor and a comedian. How do those two things mesh, and where's your balancing act as far as not crossing the line into being too funny or maybe inappropriate sometimes? Talk to us how you manage that.
Well, the first thing is my comedy's always been clean. I used to tour with Sinbad, so if you're a Sinbad fan, you'll be a fan of mine. The difference is that I do have a message in both. The message in the church is to really navigate people's lives to connect with God. And in comedy, it's to make you forget about some of the things that we deal with on a constant basis and what society has deemed acceptable, because our abnormality has become our normal and what's normal has become abnormal. And so I just try to bridge the two together. I try to give you something to think about. I try to give you something to at least have a discussion about and still laugh at the same time.
Man, it's interesting you mention that because I find some of the things in the Bible very funny. One of the Exodus scriptures starts out, your bull and your ass must rest. So,
hey, look, if you read Exodus long enough, there's a lot of humor in there. Here's the thing that I think is funny about Exodus. God sent a man who did miracles to help people leave 400 years of captivity. They left with fanfare, got to the first obstacle, complained, and told the dude who led them out of captivity, we were better off where we were. How can you be better off if you were in captivity? But, and then they go across the Red Sea. God brings them, the man of God said, watch what God will do for you today. You don't even have to fight. And they get across, and then next thing they do, they develop a golden calf. Come on, man. That's humor. That's when I realized people was crazy. It didn't make no sense for me saying them to them. They're going to do what they want to do anyway.
Hey, they were like, hey, take us back.
Exactly. Yo. So, I mean, when it comes to humor, there's humor in everything.
The thing I find interesting, we're talking about humor and talking about the sanity, or I should say the cleanliness of it, if I can use that word, and how on a number of levels, I think humor has crossed over into just being simply vulgar. Talk to us about how you keep that line thick in the sand and you don't cross it, because I know you're very hilarious. But
this is what I do. I believe when you come out to a show, you want to be entertained. I want to perform. There's a lot of comics, and Dave Chappelle said it, they look at their comedy as their art, their artistry. I'm not going to knock any of that. What I'm going to say is I'm going to try to make sure that everybody can come to the show. You can bring your grandmother, your children, because I want to entertain. I want to perform. I think that when I'm off the stage, if you want to ask me my personal opinion about something, I can share that with you. But when I'm performing and you don't have a microphone, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, to refute the things that I say, then I want to keep my routine to a performance where you're just going to laugh. And what I mean by that is Chris Rock, that's artistry. Dave Chappelle, that's artistry. Kevin Hart, Eddie Murphy, Delirious was there for performance, meaning they weren't really trying to make a point. They weren't trying to push you into a direction of, what is socially conscious. They just wanted you to laugh. And when you look at Delirious, even today, you still laugh. Goonie goo goo.
That's a good point, man, because the other thing is I find it interesting to see how a person can turn off or turn on their behavior. If like, for instance, we did this conversation surrounding Bill Cosby has been beat to death. The guy was, he lived a certain way, or he had this image that was out there. Then lo and behold, we find out in his personal life that he was something completely different. I'm wondering what you think about how much of a correlation there is between what a person does in their everyday life and what it is they're trying to perform or entertain with.
You got to understand Hollywood. Bill Cosby, it's power. It's power and privilege. And a lot of people will allow you to take whatever privilege on them to get next to their power. Bill Cosby, well, not even Bill Cosby, very successful people with a lot of money get to enact or act out the very thoughts that are in their mind. And there are people willing to participate to get to the position that they believe if they act out is going to get them. Meaning, if you look at all these people who are accused of stuff, they were always in position of a power to what we call green light, meaning I can put you on this show, I can make this movie happen. A lot of people, they don't get to that position until they have gone through some type of hazing at the discretion of the one who has the ability to take their life to the next level.
Well, hazing, that is a great, great word to use. But we're close to where we can take a break. When we come back, I want to have you think a little bit about some of the great comedians of the past, or who you thought was great, who didn't get that reputation or didn't get that notoriety, if you will. But this is the Book of Dad radio show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson with Iceberg Slim, and we'll pick it up when we come back with Rodney. We'll be right back.
See why listeners from over 150 countries around the world follow the Book of Dad radio show. Join Dr. Robert Benson and Eddie G as they chat with special guests who share their stories and information that will change your life. Watch and listen on lifeandspiritonline.com or subscribe to the Book of Dad radio show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Brought to you by the NASCA Network.
Hey, welcome back to the Book of Dad radio show with me, Eddie G, and Dr. Robert Benson. Our special guest today is Rodney Johnson, the Doctor of Comedy. Thank you for being here, sir. I know you had mentioned that you're on tour with Sinbad and things like that. Give us some insight in the background of a comedian on tour. You know, the traveling, the different shows. Have you ever got on stage and just bombed? Give us some of those stories.
All right, now that's a lot happening. So let me try to answer all of that. First of all, have I ever bombed? Yes, I bombed. And when you bomb, it is a lonely place. You are isolated because it is just you and them. But I would attribute my bombing to the promoter. A 10 o'clock show in the hood. I'm opening for Michael Cooper, who was the lead singer for Confunction. Show's supposed to start at 10 o'clock. Show doesn't get started till 11:30. And then the host goes out and says, y'all ready for the show? Of course. It's an hour and a half late. And then they start naming all the hits of Michael Cooper and Confunction. He said, y'all ready to hear? Y'all ready to hear? Y'all ready to hear? But first, here's a comedian who ain't nobody ever heard of. To take up more time, please welcome to the stage. What's his name again? Yeah, Rodney Johnson. Fellas, that's a hole right there. I did the first joke. They said, boo! I said, oh, man. But one thing about me, even when I started, they started booing. I knew my money was on the line. I wasn't leaving. I stayed. I did that 30 minutes. I got that check. So that's the Ballman story. What's behind the scenes? I tell people this: we get paid to get there. That's what we get paid to do. We get paid to get there. It's like NFL players or any major athlete. All that working you got to do behind the scenes. The game is fun. This the other stuff. So if I got a show in, have a show in Cleveland, and then the next night I'm in Detroit, and the next night I'm in Salt Lake City. I don't know who put that together, but behind the scenes there's a lot of travel. I tell people this all the time. They never really understand it. I've been everywhere. I've seen nothing. I've seen nothing. People say, I've been to all these places. I've been to Niagara Falls 5 times. I didn't see Niagara Falls until I went on vacation, because you got to realize you fly into a city, you get picked up, you go to the hotel, you check in, you go do radio, you go back, you get something to eat, you get ready for the show, maybe you have to do a sound check, then you do the show's over, it's 11 o'clock, everything closed, and then you're on the 7 o'clock flight out of there the next day because you got to get to the next city to do the same thing. So there's a lot of things that happen, but at the end of the day, I can tell you right now, there's not a performer that would not would never give it up based upon what it affords you in life. I'm a comic, I'm a comedian, 36 years in the game, but just like today, when I left out of my subdivision, made that left, and I saw them brothers with that hard hat on, laying those them concrete blocks, so they building a grocery store in my neighborhood, and that sun was beating down, and it said 102. No, bro, I'll take the travel, and I take everything that comes along. I can even take getting booed.
Man, it's interesting you mention that, because with all that's going on, you got to have some pretty good intelligence. I always say the funniest people have to be the most intelligent people. And in presenting these shows, I'm wondering if do you get caught up in a certain sequence you try to do, or are you reading the crowd? Is it what are you using to determine what is funny next, or are you trying to follow some script, as it were?
No, I'm gonna tell you. In the beginning, I used to follow a script. I will not lie. I used to have all my jokes written down on a piece of paper, from 1 to however many I was going to do that night. It was not until I worked with Sinbad that I was following the script, and I had a joke, and it didn't fly, and I was pushing it in there. And when the show was over, Sinbad said, "Hey man, why'd you do that joke?" I said, "Which joke?" So he told me the joke. I looked at my list. I said, "That was number 5." He said, "What do you mean number 5?" He said, "They wasn't feeling it. So why would you stay there?" I said, "Because that's number 5. You got to do number 5, because then you got to do number 6. Man, that joker looked at me and said, you perform in the moment. You listen to them. You have all that in your head, and you sew it together. And that's why if you ever go see Sinbad, you can watch Sinbad do 4 different 1-hour shows, because he has a multitude of things in his head, but he's listening to you. And if y'all are really going with the mother and father material, he'll go deeper. If you just kind of chuckle at it, he'll segue into the children material, whatever. So basically, he cured me of the list. And basically, I perform in the moment. And when you come through the ranks, you perform based upon how you come through the ranks. What I mean by that is, since I started off with Sinbad, and he taught me to perform in the moment, that's what I do. So if you go back and look at somebody like Robin Harris, who used to dog people out, the guys that came up under him did the same thing. Joe Torre, D.L. Hughley, all of them came under. So that was their training ground. So a lot of times you can go watch Joe Torre. He might do 10 minutes of material, but he might Jones the audience, man, for 50 minutes. You might not be able to come up for air, because that's how they came through the training process. So for me, it's kind of like it's in my head, and things in my head. I'm thinking about it, and then all of a sudden it comes out, and then if they laugh, and every comic who works will tell you, once we get a laugh, oh, we home free, bro. Ain't nobody looking back.
It's interesting you mention that, man, because I thought that very thing. I mean, I've watched Kings of Comedy and some other like collab of comedians coming together, and I always see where they all tend to talk about or allude to the same thing. How is that's intentional, or is it a sense that just something you pick up on while you are observing your fellow comedians perform before you get to stage?
Well, basically, it's like public domain. We all got a beating. My mother, listen, just about everybody I know in my age bracket had to be home before the street lights came on. So everybody has a street light story. You know what I'm saying? So basically, we all just when you're dealing with an African American community, the performance is as if you are shooting the breeze. And that's how we go with it. You know, it's not really a setup premise punch as in a comedy club. It's basically like, yo, we all had that particular uncle. We all got that beating. We all, if somebody said, I'm going to call your daddy, we all straightened up. So basically, we all have those experiences. And that's what comedy is, bringing those experiences to the masses and people identify because they go, yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
All right, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and continue that context. And we'll be right back with the Book of That Radio Show.
You have something special. You have greatness in you. Hello, I'm Les Brown, Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. I want you to spread the word to your family members and friends to listen to LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. Absolutely. And let me share with you why we're going to be focusing on positive things, because whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. And now more than ever, when the suicide rate has increased over 33%, when the suicide rate of young children between 5 and 11 has doubled, people feeling hopeless and stressed out and powerless, we need programming that can bring out the greatness in them. And that's what we will be focused on. When you listen, it will be an experience that will transform your life. LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey, welcome back to the Book of That Radio Show with Dr. Robert Benson and me, Eddie G. Today we have, again, the Doctor of Comedy, Rodney Johnson. And Rodney, you brought up a good point on that last segment I wanted to talk about. When you think about African American comedy, what I like to call it is relationship comedy, because as you said, it's a discussion of relative facts and everybody understands what you're talking about because they've been through it. And I think that's what makes it so funny. And when you think back to some of the older comedians, you know, guys like Rodney Dangerfield, who told jokes, right? So it was a joke with a punchline. But what I like about the relationship comedy is that there's a story. It's usually a story that's funny. So how do you feel about the differences in that type of comedy? And who are some of your favorites who do that?
Well, I really have a problem with the excessive profanity, because the profanity should never be the punch. It doesn't add anything to it. The language is language. I have a problem with entertainers or comedians that use the N-word, because you use it, but if they use it on you, you're going to have a problem. So I feel that you're going to have a problem if they use it on you. Don't use it. This is just my personal thing. This is my personal thing. I want my comedy to be heard on every medium that is available without it being bleep. I remember when I did Comic View, before you do Comic View, they had what they call a pre-production meeting. So the guy comes in, it's about 20 African-American comedians in there. And the guy said on the board, he put a chalkboard, he said, these are all the words you can't say, and these are all the words you can say. And so the first show starts, and and then he says there's a traffic light in the back, and if you see green, that means go. You see yellow, that means wrap it up, and if you see red, you've gone too far. These are the instructions that they give all of us. And the first comic goes out, and he says every word on the list you're not supposed to say, which now opens up the door for the next guy. And now when the first guy comes off, everybody go, yo, man, you rip, you rip, you rip, you rip. Second guy goes out, does the same thing the first guy does. You rip, you rip, you rip. Third guy, same thing. Fourth guy, fifth guy. Now, I'm the first comic on the second show. I had a dad. I followed instructions. I heard what they said you can say and you can't say, but I wasn't going to do none of the words you couldn't say anyway. So I go out, I do my set. While I'm up there, the light starts flashing yellow. I don't know what it means because the guy did not cover that in the pre-production meeting. So I finished my set on time because I had to do 10 minutes, and I walk off and I go in the back. Nobody says a word to me. They didn't say you ripped it. They didn't say nothing. About 2 minutes later, the producer who had that meeting comes into the room and said, "Hey, who was that comic just got off the stage?" I said, "That was me." He said, "Did y'all see him? That's what we need to be doing. That's a comedian right there. We don't have to beep him. We don't have to bleep him. We don't have to edit him." And he said, "Y'all need to pay attention, man." He didn't say none of those words, and he was funnier than all of y'all. And then I said, "Can you answer this one question?" He said, "What's that?" I said, "I saw the yellow light flashing. You never covered that." He said, "Yeah, we was trying to send a signal to you to go longer so we can edit some of this other nonsense." So I said all that to say this. It's what you want to be known for. Your comedy should embellish who you are, you know, what you bring to the table and what you want to live long past you. And I just want it to be considered good, funny, and that everybody can enjoy it.
Well, you know, man, speaking of, you mentioned a couple of comics. Ed, you mentioned Rodney Dangerfield. Me, I think a couple of my all-time favorites were Robin Harris and George Carlin, who you very rarely hear about, but I thought those guys were absolutely hilarious. Who do you think is, you know, probably the best ever if you were to try to, you know, categorize someone as that? Or can
Man, every man, listen. I know I've been in some shows, man, where I've seen some great guys. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'll put it to you like this. This is how I answer that question. Who would I pay to go see? I'd pay to go see Earthquake. Earthquake is funny to me.
Yes,
Earthquake is funny to me. I mean, he just naturally brings it. I like Corey Holcomb. But then there's a whole bunch of cats you may have never heard. I like Damon Williams. I like Tony Roberts. I like this guy named Benji Brown. I remember some young cats that were doing really well. Daryl Heath in LA. So I just like people who are funny, man. And it's a lot of funny people who have made a living like myself. I'm at 3 decades plus 6 more. And so there's a lot of people, man. I tell you, Shirley Hemphill. I used to love Shirley Hemphill because Shirley was just naturally funny. And there's another thing. Yeah. There's some people who are naturally funny and some people who are written funny. Jerry Seinfeld is written funny. Tim Allen is written funny. But people like Red Fox, they just Eddie Murphy, they can just be trying to check into a flight to get on a plane and everybody be laughing just because that's a naturalness. Sinbad, it's another one, naturally funny. Bernie Mac, man, Bernie, bruh. So let me just say this: there's a lot of great people out there.
You know, man, one thing I want to ask you, you keep talking about your tenure and how long you've been doing it. How long does it take for a person to be in the comedian business before they realize that they're just not funny?
You know, Carol Burnett made this statement many years ago. She said, "If you can support yourself in 5 years, then that's the business for you." And I remember it like yesterday. It was actually almost 5 years to the day. I was at Steve Harvey's comedy club. He had a club called Vuka Ray's back in Dallas before he had the comedy. He had 2 different comedy clubs. And I was at Vuka Ray's, and I never forget it. Every time I would get paid, I would get my money, and then I would have my little bill list, and then I would go get these money orders, and then I would mail them out from whichever city I was in. And I finished Steve Harvey's comedy club. I got paid, and I went to the hotel, and I didn't have to pay nobody. And I remember sitting in that room talking about, I made it! And it was 5 years. It was almost 5 years to the day. And that's it. So you give yourself some time. And if you can feed yourself, if you can take care of yourself, and if it's all that you do, then that's what you do. And that's all I've ever done. I fed my family and raised them and put my kids through college telling jokes.
Wow. Well, the great Carol Burnett. Wow. Hey, well, we're at the point where we got to wrap things up with you, Rodney. Tell us what you're doing right now, and then Eddie G will close us out, and I'll give you guys a quote, and we'll go from there. Okay? Yeah, what you got going on?
Well, I pastor a church on Saturday nights out here in Villa Rica, Georgia, called ASAW, ASAW Community Church. So I'm there every Saturday night when I'm not on the road. I have a couple guest preachers that fill in for me when I'm gone. Like I said, I'm trying to mentor these kids at the Boys and Girls Club of America, trying to give back. I'm 58 now, trying to give back. And just trying to be positive, man. And I see all the things that society is thrown into our families, and I'm just trying to be that example. I call it the James Evans effects. I'm trying to be the James Evans. When people meet me, I want to have that same presence and respect that James Evans commanded, that George Thomas Jefferson, meaning I'm going to make sure I take care of my family. I'm going to make sure I try my best to look out for you and give you something to make your tomorrow better today. So that's basically what I have my hands full doing.
That's great. Excellent. We appreciate you coming on and your great intellect and your insight into the comedic world. We appreciate that. We have to get you back because time goes by so quickly. We definitely have to.
It does, man. It does.
Doesn't it? It's like when you get
I'm like, man, I was just warming up.
the older you get, the faster time goes.
Well, thank you, Rodney. And we're definitely going to see you again. It ain't the first time you've been with us anyway, so we'll see you soon, no doubt.
Cool.
But
I appreciate
it. Today we're going to close out the show with a quote, as I always do. It's simply this, and Rodney can attest to this. People handle bad news better with a little humor. It's been Book of Dad Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson. Thank you, my main man, Iceberg Slum. Rodney, we'll see you soon, man. Thanks.
All right. Thank you,
We'll
Joe.
talk to you next time.